Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's Up With That, the show that brings you interesting people, places, cultures, and subcultures here in the South Bay, the San Francisco Bay Area, the state of California, and beyond. And tonight, what's up with Rusty King, Renaissance Man? Who is Rusty King? And how has Rusty King made us happy and kept us sane? Well, let me tell you a story. Years ago, we used to tape in Cupertino, and we had kind of an interesting crew, a general manager person that used to kind of get us a little nervous, stressed out. We moved to this studio. We were a bit nervous, used to being stressed out, and we come in the door, and here's this guy, and he's all happy and just, I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing. We're in a happy place. We came the next week, and he's there again. And he's still happy. I'm thinking there's nobody in this world that's that happy. But you know what? This guy is happy all the time. And let me tell you, it's a really great thing when you're under stress. He realized that we all got our thing going, and somehow he makes me sane. I guess as sane as I can be. Ready for the show? Rusty's there. I'm cool. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Rusty King. What's up, brother?
Not much. What an introduction. Love it.
Here we go. So, tell me, how did you get to KMVT?
By court-appointed community service.
Exactly. We were always wondering, wow, he's here all the time.
Yeah.
He really likes this stuff.
Yeah. I'll tell you, there was one step before that, and what it was I've been a musician my whole life. I've written a lot of songs, and I was in an idol search, and a producer from this station saw me in the top 10, liked my style, so he wanted to bring me to the station and put me on television. It just so happens during that time I did have an arrest. So
those little things do happen.
Yeah, it was a court process. And then I realized, I loved it here. And this is community television, which means community service. Now, I can prove that I would have done it anyway, and because I've been here for years now and doing volunteer work. But so I went into the court and I said, okay, if you give me deferred prosecution, which means if you're a good guy for a year, don't get in trouble, do community service, they'll make it go away. So I volunteered 300 hours. I did them right here.
I cracked up when they told me that. I thought, oh, but you have a passion for it, so it worked actually really good for you. Thank the courts for that.
Yeah, it worked out for everybody. It worked out for the station, for the community, and for me.
So when you think of community television, what do you think of the community television represents?
What it represents to me and why I love it and why I've worked here and volunteered so much is because it's a freedom of speech. And people can come and do a show on anything. They can be any race, any nationality, any religion, any point of view, politically, non-politically. You can do karate, dance, you can do anything, and it's really one of those venues.
We're certainly a testimony to that.
Yes, we are.
But I mean, I agree. It's truly a place, and we need freedom of speech.
And I love that. I love seeing the kids come. I love seeing people from India doing their music shows and just Asian food programs, just anything, and it gives people that opportunity.
And so you were the Volunteer of the Year.
3 times in 6 years. Yeah.
Right. So how does that process go? I mean, who decides and?
Well, it's the staff here gets to choose, and we have a fellow who works in the field shooting sports, so he has the people who really go out of their way to help him, out in the inclement weather, doing 3-hour baseball games a couple days a week. So everyone gives their opinion who they feel volunteered the most.
Right. And you do everything. You go all over and whatever.
Well, I don't do the sports shoots. Sports doesn't interest me as much. But anything around the office, I'm kind of the guy, maybe the lineman who gets the Heisman's Trophy, where I don't do computer work. I don't do things like that. But I've painted the place probably 6 times. I've fixed
interior decorating.
Oh yeah, I did all the decorating. That's why if you go through taking a tour, you'll see my picture a lot.
Yeah. Well, of course. So musician, how'd you become a musician?
When Beatles came to America, '64. I've played 46 years this year, and that's all I wanted to do. And everyone said you can't make a living at that, and who cares?
Right.
And I did.
And really, that's true. I mean, if you really love what you do, it doesn't really matter whether you make a lot of money or not.
At one point, I made a list, and I played 65 professional drumming styles for pay.
Wow.
In those years.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I played a log for Hawaiian music. I played for belly dancing, which was really great, and just everything along the way.
So I remember when we were at the last Waves in Reno, right?
Yeah.
And of course, they've condensed it down to like, 1 day or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of waiting, we're milling in
Right.
the bar, and you come in.
Yeah.
Typical Rusty, all happy, with like a brand new tat. This big old tat, right?
Yeah.
You're like, what do you think?
That's funny. That's funny because I'm 56 years old. I had no tattoos. And I was driving on that trip. Winter was coming. So I just wanted to take a trip in my old truck down towards LA, come down around through Grand Canyon, come up to the award show, which you won some national awards. I won the Volunteer of the Year for the 6 Western States. But on my way down through LA at midnight, I saw this big poster that said, or a big billboard that said, Tattoo Expo. So I thought that'd be interesting to see.
Yes, of course.
5 tattoos later.
And a bottle of Jack, right?
Yeah. No, actually, I was totally sober. Maybe if I was drinking, I wouldn't have done it. But I had carried these pictures in my truck for quite a while, and all of them mean something. So I'm glad I did it. Plus, at an expo, you get all the great artists. It's not just like you're one local
Right.
guy who could be good, but he's good in one style. So it was nice to be able to pick from the best lettering person, the best. I have an eagle here for my dad, and
Tell me about your tattoos. So you have an eagle for your dad.
Yeah, I got an eagle for my dad right here because he was an honorable man and a great soldier and everything. He got an award for the Battle of the Bulge, which, in American history
Right.
was the most casualties in any battle ever. So I got that for my dad. He was an honorable man. And then I got a star for him here because he was an enlisted man, but they created Sergeant Major, which is like a general to the enlisted man. He was the first one to get that in California. But then we were opposite. So over here I got a star, which because I was a rock star. And then I might as well. It's a tell-all show, right?
You might as well just say it.
My real name's Ralph, which is German for wolf, and it means of the wolves. So I got a snarling wolf here, and then I saw I conquered across here, which again is for my dad. Keeping us
What
in
about the
democracy
spider?
free. The spider, my
Yeah,
ex-wife.
that's the best.
Yeah, the Black Widow. I love her to death, but it's, yeah. So everything does mean something, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, I mean, and actually the only thing with tattoos is, you got them for life.
Well, and that's true, and that's why I never had them. Literally, 56 years, I never got them. It wasn't my thing. I'm a different kind of a wild guy. Just like you can see now, they don't show, but it's something I did for myself, and I realized after having a wild life and getting in a lot of trouble that it's not immoral, it's not illegal, it's not
Right.
unhealthy. So where can you have that wild feeling?
Right.
With all those things that are safe and sane,
And it's cool because
yeah,
it's,
and forever ain't that long.
No.
Now.
And you're empowered with that, it's a reminder of
That's
stuff.
funny that the first one I got, that's what the guy said, is you'll realize how empowering
Right.
it is.
I think
and it's
anytime
true.
you do any body art or body
Yes.
modification, well, it's got to be
Yeah.
empowering.
Yeah.
It's there.
And you have to earn it too. I mean, this was 3.5 hours,
Oh.
and first hour wasn't too bad, but then it starts getting raw and crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I do know.
Did you ever
but
try
you'll
it?
never know, will you? Anyways, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with Rusty King. So we'll see you in a sec.
It's estimated that as many as 33 million people worldwide are still living with HIV. In the United States, we believe that as many as 60,000 are newly infected with the disease every year. And in San Francisco, that number is nearly 1,000. So AIDS is still with us, and it's still deadly. But so is the San Francisco AIDS Foundation, which started in 1982 when San Francisco was the epicenter of the disease. And as it has evolved, so has the San Francisco AIDS Foundation. And we are still here, still dedicating to ending these new HIV infections until one day, no one, anywhere, becomes infected with this terrible disease. We're still here, but we still need your help. We need your donations, we need you to volunteer, we need you to join us on AIDS Life Cycle, the AIDS Marathon, the AIDS Walk. As long as one of us has HIV, we are all living with the disease, and we still need you to be with us too.
Hi, welcome back to What's Up With That. We're here with Rusty King. We've been having a great conversation. So you also do art. How did you get interested in art, and what kind of art do you do?
I did art along the way. Early days in high school, I happen to be French, so it's kind of in the nature
Ooh la
of it.
la.
Yeah, yeah. And we had an art project to stretch our own canvas, paint a painting with acrylic paintings, and I guess I wowed the teachers because after that, I never had to do another project, and then I got an art scholarship to the Academy of Art in San Francisco.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what do you, art's such a broad topic,
Yeah.
whatever. What do you consider good art?
good art raises question. You know, you look at it and you get certain feelings. Photography can really do that well.
right.
But it's easy for people to see modern art and think, oh, I could do that.
yeah.
It's not whether you could do it or not, it's that you created it, you know, and that just like a Picasso, when they think, oh, well, look
Right.
at that craziness, he could paint perfectly.
Or
He
Jackson
could,
Pollock. I mean,
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
him and it's like, well, he's just throwing paint on something.
yeah,
and it's
but
like,
they've
you know,
gone through the process of becoming great artists and could do other things, and they've taken it further.
Yeah.
And that makes for great art.
And I mean, you think of people like Dali too. He was
Yes.
the best, really.
Yes.
I think in Dada movement, but he shook the world.
Exactly
you know?
right.
And I think if art can do that, that's the purpose of it. So
Right.
you've had a lot of injuries in your life. We were talking about that one time. So tell me about some of the interesting Rusty King injuries.
You want me to go right to the mother lode?
You might as well just start from the start, or go to the mother lode. Let's start there.
Okay, I'll start. I had like 13 concussions along the way. I'm not technically accident prone.
No, really?
No, I didn't like slip and fall because I'm accident prone, but I take things to the limit a little too much. And, you know, run down the slide instead of sliding down the slide, break your arm.
Right.
Climb up to the tree until you get to the top and fall out on your head. And get
Yeah,
knocked
the little
out.
things like that, yeah.
In fact, about the third or fourth one, my brother brought me home once, and then since I was knocked out, he couldn't get in trouble, so my mom yelled at him and everything. Then a few years later, I got knocked out again, and him and my neighbor carried me home, and he didn't want to get yelled at. I'm knocked out, so he hid me under the bed.
Oh.
They didn't find me for quite a while, but you know that was a bad one actually.
Brothers are great, aren't they?
Yeah, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that one actually was in '68, which was the height of the Vietnam War, and my father was in the military, so you know I was in the head trauma ward, which was, you know, kind of terrible.
Yeah, a little bit.
But then along the way, I volunteered to be knocked out at a karate convention. I was getting a black belt in karate, and so they needed a volunteer because the specialist was in resuscitation. So volunteered for that.
Break a board over your head or something?
No, actually, I got away lucky because I volunteered first, and you know I thought I was going to be hit, but I got strangled instead.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, then no
was a nice
problem.
friendly strangling.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nothing like a friendly strangle.
Right,
You know?
but the coup de grace was years later when unfortunately I had went through divorce and I had fallen into drugs and everything, and I left a nightclub and I had a 24-foot motorhome, and key ignition was out, got under it to arc it at the starter. I was up to my waist and it was in reverse. I ran over myself.
That's great.
Yeah, 24 broken bones.
I mean, how often can you brag about you ran yourself
That's
over,
right.
you know?
That's when I became Rusty. I was Ralph up to then, and then I thought, you know, I got to get a grip on this because you know it was bad, and so I thought, okay, I'm Rusty now because I'm not working quite as good.
The Tin Man, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
That was about the last one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, you've had a lot of different jobs and
I
different
have.
experience. What's been your favorite day job, let's say?
Favorite day job? Well, obviously playing drums is great and everything. But right now in my life, it's just volunteering here, which, you know, I'm not getting paid as a job, but I love being at the station, doing that kind of stuff. I've done a little bit of everything for jobs. But
Right.
a job I actually really liked. I was a bar bouncer for a while, and that was exciting and interesting. Then when I burned out on it, I took a job in a warehouse just to be alone. And it was nice being in that warehouse because I was employee of the year there. They gave me a key to the warehouse. I lived in my motorhome out front. I had my drums
So
set
you ran
up.
yourself over.
Yeah, yeah. I had my drums set up in that warehouse. I had a 24-hour key. It was
Wow.
industrial. So I just ran the warehouse by myself, and at night, when no one was there, I could play my drums, and I loved that job.
Wow. So that's
Had-
cool.
Yeah, I had full medical and all those, you know, comforting things.
So you had your whole space.
Yeah, yeah, really liked
So when
it.
you look back then, and you know, having come in contact with so many different kinds of people
Yeah.
and whatever, what's your favorite type of person?
My favorite type of person is really one who's just themselves. And that could be anybody from a chief of police to the guy who did my tattoos, had tattoos all over his face. He was a nice guy, and he's daring enough to be himself. And he said, you know, if you don't like it, don't look. Is his
Right.
attitude. I like that. I like the gay guy who's a dancer because that's what he wants to be, and he's not going to let anyone stop him.
Right.
You know, he's following his dreams and being himself.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times being yourself, you have to
Yeah.
get ready for
Exactly.
some crap, I guess. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And,
And I like people, you know, it sounds corny, but people who treat everyone equally. You know what, I'm getting older now. When I run into the young ladies who are just plain nice to me and friendly, where age doesn't matter and we get along spirit-wise,
Right.
it's exciting, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I wish all people could be like that, you know?
Right. Yeah.
The Happy Rusty is great, you know, it really is. Like I said, stress relief here, you know.
Right.
You've gone on road trips.
Yeah.
Tell me about what's your favorite road trip?
My favorite road trip was when I married my wife. She'd never been out of California.
Mm-hmm.
So we both had jobs. I was a international jewelry buyer and stuff. And,
I tell you, dude.
well, and
you have quite a resume. It must be pretty amazing.
Yeah. She was 12 years younger, and at the time I was 35, she was 23. She'd never been out of California. So I said, let's take a trip. Well, you know, she was more practical and everything. And so I talked her into quitting her job. I sold all my jewelry, got some money together, and I rebuilt a 62 Ford Falcon station wagon.
Oh, cool.
Because I'm really still a hillbilly and kind of old-fashioned. And I said, where do you want to go? Well, she was a little worried about that. We just drew a circle around the United States and across Canada from West Coast to East Coast. And I took her for 3 months, 13,000 miles. We went to 41 states and
that is so cool.
And all the Canadian provinces.
Wow.
Trip. Yeah, it was totally thrilling. Everything we'd ever heard of, we got to see.
Yeah, well, that's great. So when you go across America, what are some of the things that stick out in your mind that you saw?
Well, one great thing was now whenever I hear of a state like Indiana something, I can picture Indiana.
Yeah.
And I hear Iowa, Arkansas, Montana. I can picture exactly what's going on in those states because I've been there.
Yeah.
You know?
I know.
And, you know, America's very beautiful. Someone just asked me yesterday if I could go anywhere in the world, where would I want to go right now? And the first thing that came to mind was just to cross America again.
Just go. I think it's just go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas it's great to see other countries, a little more planning, maybe language barriers, money changing and things like that. But my first instinct still just to see America.
Yeah.
You know?
My claim to fame is, of course, I go to another country and get mugged, but that's all right. You know?
I've been mugged.
I'm the king of mug, okay?
Yeah.
I must have American mug me.
I've been mugged 5 times in 5 major cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we have the same record.
Yeah. I got my passport
I'm not at home in the city unless it's been beat up.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, it's
Isn't
true.
that funny?
Yeah, I was in New York. I heard something. I thought someone was trapped in a dumpster and reached my hand in it. And some guy came out and boom. I was like,
is that right? Just
yeah,
like
I said, well,
that.
that ain't going to happen again.
Oh, my gosh.
But welcome to New York, you know.
I've been mugged in New York, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Mexico City, and one other one where I probably got knocked out. So I don't. Fremont, my hometown.
Oh,
and I
no,
got
not
knocked
Fremont.
Out. Yeah, I got knocked
for shame
out.
in Fremont.
I was leaving a nightclub, and one guy was giant because he lifted me up from the back of the neck in a chokehold, and then some little guy pickpocketed me, knocked me out, left. Hometown.
Sweet, huh? Sweet story. God love America, huh? All right, well, we're going to take a short station break, and we'll be back with Rusty King and more interesting stories. So we'll see you in a sec.
Σήμερα θα ήθελα να μιλήσω για την σύγχρονη βιντεοκάμερα, που είναι ένα θαύμα υψηλής τεχνολογίας, η οποία επιτρέπει...
Is shooting good video all Greek to you? How would you like to learn about all the latest video cameras? We have just what you need. In just 3 hours, you'll be shooting your own video with state-of-the-art cameras in a workshop we made just for you. This workshop is provided by KMBT Community Television. To learn more, contact us at the phone or website on your screen.
Right now, Americans 18 to 80-something are using their heads to solve the world's toughest problems. They are today's Peace Corps volunteers. If you've got a good head, an open mind, and a big heart, find out more about joining the Peace Corps. Peace Corps, the toughest job you'll ever love.
All right, welcome back to What's Up With That. We're here with Rusty King. We've been having a really interesting and fun chat, as always. So I understand from, from knowing you that you've had some situations with the law. So tell me about some of your situations with the law, getting in trouble or whatever.
Well, let's say I've worked extensively in the court system as a defendant.
Yes. You have your own chair, right?
They used to call me by my first name.
Uh-huh.
I was wild, but didn't know where, okay, I shouldn't be on that side of the line until I had already been on that side of the line and gotten in a lot of trouble. It was the 70s where it was kind of like us against them feeling.
Right.
So, we were all learning bad things, trying to be free. But yeah, I got plenty of arrests behind me.
So tell me about some of the good ones.
I don't know if there are any good ones, but I tell you this, I was Criminal of the Year in
this is good.
In the Santa Clara judicial system. So whatever I've done wrong, I've always made up for it. I'm one of those guys too where when I got in trouble, I took care of it.
Right.
sometimes I didn't do it though. I mean, I can tell you about things where it was cops that did it, and I was in the wrong place, the wrong time, kind of thing. But
Right.
crossing paths, and to this day, I meet the best cops, and I've met some of the worst.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, well, really, anything can happen
Yeah,
at any
yeah.
given time.
yeah.
You just,
And there were certainly the times it was my fault. I'm guilty. I should be punished, and I was.
yeah.
And then, but too, I got to speak at the annual banquet as one of the success stories.
See?
So that's nice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
So this is a sort of interesting question.
Yeah.
So you're homeless, basically, right?
I am. Yes, I am. I have been by choice for several years now. I like it. In some ways, it's freeing. And I actually live in my truck right outside the station.
So was it a chain of events, or?
You could say that when I was 35, met my wife, loved her to death. We were settling down together, and I thought it was forever. It was a life within a lifetime, 7 years. I had bought the house from her parents when we were splitting up. Her parents, which were totally creeps. I mean, thieves. They stole the house.
That girl was a monster.
They stole the house I had bought from them.
That's
my
nice.
wife never took anything from me, so I bought a motorhome and actually moved around in that, living and working, doing handyman work. Lived in a barn in that for several years, and I just loved it. I loved being outdoors. I'm single. I'm in good health. I don't want to be pinned down. I don't want to pay $1,500 a month to live somewhere.
Right.
So, unfortunately, along the way, the motorhome got robbed and wrecked. So I just, graduated into my truck. I got a camper shell on it. I like it. The building owners here know I stay out there. I keep the place safe.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. They
Yeah.
got free security, huh?
And you know what? It's like camping out. And there's restroom facilities. There's a sports center right next door, has hot showers and all that.
So you set.
I'm at the station every day. I do some handyman work around town, and I like it. Yeah.
That's good. You're free.
Yeah.
Actually.
And actually, in contrast to that, I've walked the precinct to get three city council members elected, who then became mayors.
Right.
And I've interviewed them all on television, and
See?
including chief of police, and they all know that, and it's fine.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
So this brings me to a very important question. So how do you? I mean, with all of this stuff, you have
Yeah.
such a good attitude on life. What's that all about?
I remember the simple things. Again, it sounds like, wow, that's no big deal. But you remember the simple things. You just remember a kind word here and there. And that's what makes the world go round. So I
Right.
like that. No matter what bad can happen, there's always a good. The pendulum swings both
Right.
ways. And
Yeah, and I think it's very true. People always tend to look at the bad
Yes.
side
Yeah.
instead of the good side.
Right.
And that's something you've taught me, though, because I've come in here
Yeah.
sometimes. I've had a horrible day at work, and I'm, and there you are smiling. And
Right.
Suddenly, it's like it's all right.
Yeah.
it's
When we were in Reno
okay.
together, you mentioned that, and I appreciate that.
I mean,
even though it is natural to me and I enjoy it, it's nice to hear it.
But it is. It's calming.
Well, thanks.
So, what's your idea of like a great evening?
A great evening. For me, at my age, it's really to read a good book and just to realize, hey, I feel good. Life is good. It does. I don't have to win the lottery to be happy.
Right.
A good evening is just looking back and thinking, okay, this happened today. I give the tours here to kids. I love that.
Right.
I like helping out on shows and all these things.
I know.
So that's a good day. Like today's a good day.
Every day's a good day. It's all on how you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are times, but if you think of the good things, it's all cool. So, what's the most unusual? This is one of a classic. What's up with that question? But it's one of my favorite. What's the most unusual situation you've ever found yourself in?
Well, being run over by a motorhome was pretty unusual. Yeah.
Your own motorhome.
Yeah. Some of the things I mentioned along the way. I mean, there's probably a top 10, not just one of the most unusual, but really. Volunteering to be knocked out was pretty unusual.
Yeah, that's a little
knowing
weird.
it's coming, and I'm doing it for the good of the martial arts scene. Being run over was definitely a landmark. But really, to be in the criminal system and then be chosen as
Right.
number one good guy.
Right.
That's really something,
Well, it is great.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows that
Yeah.
you've certainly lived the complete circle of life, right?
I also wrote some songs and entered contests I had never sung before, and I won 5 of them in a row, all first place. That was like remarkable to me. I knew I had some kind of talent, but I'd never sung or written songs, so to be picked out of the crowd.
Okay, so to counter that, what's the funniest situation you've ever found yourself in?
Probably right here. Sitting here answering questions. And
So to be interrogated?
yeah. Actually, I did stand-up comedy with a band, so there were a lot of funny situations, being professional but still very funny. It was called the Bungholes, and we got a lot of play.
I know. My brothers were in a punk band in Guam called FUX. Right.
Okay, yeah.
Just pronounce it.
That's great.
You'll get the humor of it. My mother was going to kill him. I thought it was hilarious. So, heroes. Who are your heroes? What do you look for in a hero?
A hero to me, of course, I'm a professional drummer, was Ginger Baker was my hero because he was a great drummer, and that was my path I followed. You know, right now, my heroes are just some everyday people I know, you know, who are just great people. They always make me feel good.
Right.
And you know what, too? When I meet someone, people think I'm nice and friendly, which, yeah, I am. But I'll meet someone like a little old guy. He's the nicest guy in the world.
Right.
And, you know, for all he's been through and maybe his health problems or his age, he's still got a smile on his face.
Right.
That, to me, is a great guy.
That's a hero,
Yeah,
really.
and they make me feel that way. And it reminds me, you know, to be that way, to keep that up. You know?
Okay, so we have just a very short time. What I want you to just say something, give some advice to the people out in the audience who might not always be happy or whatever.
Right. Well, you know, I'm going to sound like Miss America, but to
kids,
to kids, follow your dreams. You know, they'll tell you, oh, you can't do that, or you need to have a backup plan. Do what you want to do. Be yourself. Because in the long run, I live in my truck right now. I don't have a lot of money. I've done a lot of things, good and bad. I'm happy. I am really happy.
And that's all that matters.
Because I'm doing what I want.
Right.
And also this year, I'm going to go to Nashville. I wrote these songs. I've always wanted to go to Nashville. What have I got to lose?
Yeah, nothing to lose.
Yeah, so that keeps me excited. And I would say to people, you know, follow your dreams and the golden rule.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes.
To our viewing audience, as always, you know, I wish we all had this attitude. I think we all can have this attitude. I think it's possible. I think we need to push some negativity out of our life and really enjoy the good things in our life. And it's just going to make everybody feel all right. So to our viewing audience, as always, if you're walking down the street and you see something interesting and you wonder to yourself, hey, what's up with that? Well, tune into our show, What's Up With That, and maybe you'll find exactly what you're looking for. We'll see you next week on What's Up With That. Good night, everybody.